Hey, welcome back my fellow follicle frontiersmen. My name is DJ from Keratin Brotherhood. Thanks for tuning into the channel. If it's your first time visiting us, consider clicking that subscribe button. We put out regular content related to hair transplant, hair restoration, beard growth. In today's video, I'm going to be answering a common question that I get asked in the comments about my FUT scar. And that is, have I ever considered getting hair transplantation into the scar, or have I ever considered micropigmentation, like the tattooing into the scar in order to conceal it? And the answer is a bit more complicated than you might think it is. The short answer is, yeah, I have considered it. Would I ever do it? Probably not. And I have a couple of reasons why I feel this way. You may have heard some doctors who are trying to tell you that you can go ahead and add things like, micropigmentation into the scar after the surgery. You can get hair transplanted using like the FUE method into the FUT scar in order to conceal the scar. I don't want to sugarcoat any of this information. And I want you to understand that I'm talking not only from my personal experience. Before I had the surgery, during the consultations, the surgeons told me what my options were. But more importantly than the options, they told me what was the success rate of those options. And I feel like that success rate is not talked about enough. Can you get hairs transplanted into the scar? Yes, of course you can. But you can go to a hair surgeon just like you get the hair transplanted to the top of your head. You can get hairs transplanted into the scar as well. Hell, you get hairs transplanted literally anywhere on your body. I mean, the trend nowadays is for guys to get the beard transplanted, get hairs transplanted into the beard. Personally, that's a bit extreme for me. Instead, I usually use minoxidil to help grow a beard. If you're considering using minoxidil, or Rogaine as it's called by brand name, if you're considering using minoxidil to grow your beard, I'll put a link up here. You can check out my beard journey. I've been going through this beard journey for about maybe a little bit over 4 months of using minoxidil, and this is what I got, basically starting from nothing. So if that's something that you're interested in, check out the video above. I'll also drop a link in the comments or in the description below, and you can check out those videos there. But anyways, you can get hair transplanted wherever you want on your body. The question is not if you can get hairs transplanted into the scar, but rather what will be the result of the hairs transplanted into the scar. And I feel like this is the part that's not talked about enough. And so what I want to do is I want to be completely frank and honest with you. I know in a lot of my other videos, it's a bit more of a high pace, kind of a humorous, kind of funny, jump cut type of video. But in this video, like I said, this series in particular, Truth About FUT Scars, I feel like is a bit more of a serious topic. So if you notice there's a different vibe, this whole series is having this vibe. The reason why FUT scars or scars in general are difficult to transplant hairs into is because scar tissue is much different than the skin tissue that you have on other parts of your body. Scar tissue, not to get into anatomy and physiology, but scar tissue is just thicker. It's denser tissue, and while it's denser, it's also less vascular, meaning that there's less blood circulation going into the scar tissue. What that means for you as a person considering getting hair transplanted into the scar is the surgeon can do his best to transplant the hairs in there. Will the hairs actually survive? Because like I said, there's less blood flow and less nutrient flow into the scar tissue. And without the proper blood flow, the hair follicle will basically just die. If you think about, getting hairs transplanted into your scar, there's a bit of an uncertainty there because you don't know, the doctor can't tell you how much vascularity you have in a scar. And moreover, the doctor has to seriously consider the density of the scar in different areas. And so to use my scar as an example, my scar, it's not a large, wide scar. You can see here, it's not very wide, except for this area that got stretched. But as I run my finger over it, this section here is actually quite thin. Thin meaning that it's not that thick compared to the surrounding skin tissue that's just my normal skin. So this area is fine if I wanted to consider transplanting hairs into it. The problem comes in the back. In the back, there's a bit of a bumpiness, a bumpy texture to it. And the bumpiness is not necessarily because the doctor didn't close it up correctly. Actually, more so it's just, scar tissue is unpredictable. In some areas it heals thin, some areas it heals thick, or more dense than others. And so this area is just really bumpy. And also in a couple of areas on the other side here, it's a bit bumpy. Prior to the FUT surgery, that was one of the things I talked about with the doctor, was like, yo, can I get hairs transplanted into the scar? And he said, yeah, you can, but the probability of the hairs not taking or actually just dying is higher than if you just transplanted the hairs into normal skin tissue. To put it into perspective, the hairs through an FUT procedure have a probability of taking somewhere between 85 to 95% survival rate for the follicles. Pretty good. I mean, of course you're not going to get 100%, but that's pretty good odds considering the amount of money you're going to pay. This is I wish people would talk about this more. One of the downsides of FUE hair surgery is because it's inherently a longer surgery to pull out each individually punching. What happens is those follicles that have been punched out first have to sit out longer, and the longer a hair follicle sits out of the scalp, the higher the risk of the follicle actually dying outside of the scalp. And even if it doesn't die, the health of that follicle deteriorates the longer it's outside of the environment of the skin. So in FUE procedures, during my consultation, I was told that FUE survival rates for the hair follicles is somewhere in the range of 70 to 75%. You might be thinking, well, that's still pretty good. 75%, out of 100 hairs, 75 live. I'll take those odds. But that's for normal skin. Transplanting the hair into normal skin, if it goes into scar tissue, that number drops dramatically. And we're talking somewhere, in sub 50 to even below 50% survival rate for hair follicles. And if you're thinking about if you consider the cost of an FUE procedure to transplant hairs into an FUT scar, and there's a chance that you could have less than 50% of those hairs actually survive, I don't know about you, but in my case, I don't think of myself as a good risk manager, but I don't like those odds. So when it comes to hair follicles being transplanted into the scar to conceal the scar, that's my reason for not doing it. Your mileage may vary. I always say that. Your case is, everybody's different. So you really have to take what I say anecdotally. Understand that a hair surgeon is not only a surgeon, but he or she is also a businessman or woman. At the end of the day, a business's job is to make money. So I cannot say that all surgeons have your best interests at heart. Don't expect full transparency from a consultation for a hair transplant surgery, because their job is to get you under the knife so that they can get paid. Okay, but I'm gonna tell you right here, when you're talking about transplanting hairs into the actual FUT scar, you think about the density of the scar and whether or not that hair that's transplanted in is gonna take or not. If you're not familiar with micropigmentation is basically tattooing hair follicle patterns onto skin tissue. You'll see this procedure done a lot for guys who are balding in this area and they wanna rock a low haircut or a bald fade, or they want to give the illusion that there's hair there. They'll tattoo basically hair dots or hair follicle looking dots to give the impression of a shadow, as if it's just been shaved or cut really, really low. You can use that same process into the scar tissue. Now, why haven't I done that? So we got to go back to the anatomy of scar tissue. It's just really dense, and the cells are arranged differently than cells on your normal skin. Even experienced, micropigmentation, should I call them artists? Whatever, technicians, whatever you want to call them, they have to consider those. You have to consider those factors when you're doing the tattoo into the scar. And so again, it goes back to the success rate. When you talk about micropigmentation surgery or micropigmentation into the scar tissue, your success rate is lower than somebody who's getting it, tattooed into their normal skin. So what does that mean for you? If you get micropigmentation procedure into the FUT scar, more than likely you're going to have to go for more than one procedure. And this is what people don't talk about when they mention, oh, just get micropigmentation into your scar. You can cover it up. You can cover it up, but no, not in one go. Right? Because the thing is, you gotta get tattooed, and then after a few weeks, you have to go back to the clinic so they can review the results and see exactly how the ink took, what areas didn't take, and then you have to re-tattoo those areas that didn't take to blend with the areas that did take. And you're talking like 2, 3, 4, how many procedures it takes to get the desired aesthetic appeal that you're trying to go for. And so I don't want you guys to think that you're gonna be able to just get micropigmentation once and it's done, okay? And let's not even get to the fact that you have to get it reapplied, after 8 or 10 years, because ink just fades, just like tattoos. Tattoos fade over time, and that's just the reality of it. It's one of those things where I feel like clinics aren't being fully transparent with patients, and they just want to kind of get you in and get the money from you without giving you the full, or without letting you know what the full level of commitment that you're gonna have to have for these procedures. So at the end of the day, when it comes to hiding your scar, you have a couple of options. You have micropigmentation and you have getting FUE hair transplanted into the scar itself. But you have to understand that there is no way for anybody to tell you that yes, it's going to be 100% good and solid and great results after the first try, because every scar is different, and you may be that 1% that's able to get it done at once, and you might be that other larger percent that has to go multiple times. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you have any more questions about my FUT scar, I'd love to answer anything you guys have. Like I said, my whole idea is to be fully transparent with you and give you the real deal about what to expect before, during, and after the FUT surgery. That's what I'm here for, because I wish that I had that kind of information available when I had my surgery, and I didn't. So this is my way of kind of giving back. So if you like the content, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more weekly updates from Keratin Brotherhood. Again, my name is DJ. See you guys in the next video.